interesting. It's funny. This is a sad story. When we played the CNE, did our gig, we went out and came back, and somebody had broken into the dressing room. Okay. And we all lost things. I lost my bag with all the stuff that I've been saving, you know, a shoulder bag. But somebody stole all the lyrics to the next record. And that was supposed to be Renegade Angel. So everything that Jim had written was gone. So he left the tour to start writing again. When we got off, the Meat lost his voice like 4 months into the tour. So I ended up singing his lead vocals from behind him. Okay. He's singing, but they got his microphone pulled down because it was just disastrous. He'd blown it out. He was doing too much coke and drinking. And so they would just pull him way back, and then I'd be singing, reading his lips. So when we went to do the next record, he couldn't sing. It was heartbreaking. But I'd warned them, and they wouldn't listen to me. You're just a stupid Canadian kid. What do you know? Well, I know. And we went in and he tried to sing, and they're all looking at me like, I said, hey, I'm just this stupid kid from Canada. And I left. So Steinman really wanted the songs to get out. Now, people don't know, Jim was the meat in Meatloaf. Okay, he was the brains, he was the writer. He was, like I said, the meat in Meatloaf. So he wanted these songs out there. Okay, so he was the record company knew which side its bread was buttered on. So they gave him a record deal. And we went in and did an album called Bad for Good, which I'm sure you know.
Yes, yeah, I know that album.
And Jim, he wrote Surf's Up for me. And I was going to do Lost Boys and Golden Girls, Surf's Up. And then out of the blue, he said he'd write another song for Meat. So he wrote Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so he said, hey, Icy. They called me the Ice Head. So they shortened it because I'm Canadian. How original. So they just called me Icy. And we took a break and said, I'm going up to the power station to cut a tune for Meat. Would you come? And sure. So I go in, it's 2 PM, and learning the song with the band. Then I go into booth, and 12 hours. They did this song every time I had to sing with this band. So at like 1:30 in the morning, the piano player goes, Roy Bittan from the E Street Band. You know Roy Bittan?
I don't know his name, but I know the E Street Band.
Okay, well, Max Weinberg was the drummer, and Roy Bittan was the professor. He played the piano, and Jim had to have him on bat as well as Max. And we went up, and he said, 1:30 in the morning, I'm exhausted. And he said, I think we can do another. And I said, I think you can go F yourself, but I used the whole word. And Jim said, oh, what's wrong? I said, I've been singing for 12 hours. If these guys can crack their knuckles and change their strings, I'm coming out of here. And he went, oh, I said, you can do it. And I'm like, okay. We go back in, do that track. Jim opens the door and says, we're saving this for our record, Icy. And kept the vocal, wouldn't let me do anything on it. It's a one-take vocal from beginning to end.
As you heard, trying to follow Bat was nearly an impossible task. But despite Bat 2 not coming until the early 90s, Steinman and Rory continued to work together and have great success. One of the biggest successes came in 1983, when Rory did those high vocals on Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart, which was written and produced by Steinman.
It's like with Eclipse, right? Total Eclipse of the Heart. That was presented to me as a duet. Jim wrote and called me up because we were like best friends. We talk be in the studio forever and then still talk. And he said, I've written a duet for you and Bonnie. And I said, okay, so you want to come down and sing it? Because whenever Jim called, I went, he wrote songs. AIC, I wrote a song because I sang all his stuff first. He always brought it to me, bring it to life. And all the way through, I went down and did both sides of that song in a demo. That's weird. Sing to yourself. But it came out and my name wasn't on it. So life goes on. I didn't complain a lot because they had my immigration over my head. Okay, because I'm Canadian and I was working in the States. And for me to stay, they had to, do stuff for immigration, and they kind of held it over my head. So if I, complained or anything, Bob's your uncle and I'm out. Whether I don't know whether they do it or not, but to me, I'm like 24 and it's scary, but I was, yes, bothered. Let me just explain, especially when he made the video. Okay, because he lip synced to my video. He lip synced on the video to my voice. And the video was just like left field as far as I was concerned, but that hurt. If you let that stuff stay in, it'll eat you alive. So I had to let it go, which I did, but doing things like this, it can bring it back. And when the eclipse happened and everybody was, I wish I had a penny or 5 cents for every time we hear this on the radio. Well, so do I, because I never made a penny on Total Eclipse. I never made a penny on Bat. Excuse me, I made $1,000 on Bat.
Total Eclipse reached #1 for 6 weeks in 1983. And there was actually a point in time where Rory sang on all 3 of the top songs in America. Total Eclipse at #1, Air Supply's Making Love Out of Nothing at All at #2, and Billy Joel's Uptown Girl at #3. Rory had developed a unique sound, and that sound soon became in demand by some of the biggest artists and producers of the 80s.
I mean, on all the Steinman and Meatloaf stuff, I sang the lead vocals when we put the backgrounds on. Usually they bring us, I was an arrogant at one point, when I would consider arrogant, but not really. We would walk in, people would have their vocals down, and then you arrange around them. Now, whether they went back and replaced the lead vocal, because they just put a scratch down and we'd sing to that. And our usual thing was we go in, this was when they only had 2-inch tape, 24 tracks. Now it's ludicrous, as many as you want. With digital, I don't care for it. But I'd go in and listen to it. I'd say, how many tracks you got for backgrounds? Oh, we got 3. Start bouncing. And they're like, what? I said, we're gonna need at least 8. Now, if you don't know what bouncing is, you know what bouncing is on a, they'd have to take stuff, there'd be, all the tracks are full, and you can never do this side by side. And they take these and bounce them down and put them together with another track. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not, Eric would know. I don't know these things. I'm just like, well, this is what we need. And we'd give them, if you want the sound that you want, this is how we do it. Because you get work because people hear you on the radio. We're in the, whoa, that sound. Well, if you want that sound, this is what you're going to have to do. So we'd go in after and put it in, and then they'd probably replace their lead vocals.
There were big differences between working with Steinman and working with other producers, which was something Rory had to get used to. He became so in demand that he sang backup on 2 of the biggest artists' albums on the same day while they were in the middle of a divorce. Those artists happened to be James Taylor and Carly Simon.
What's the difference, Rory? What's the big difference? And I would say time constraints. With Jim, as long as you want, whatever it takes, go ahead. But when you do another album, it's not like that. It's like money, money's money, and time is money, and they like to get it done. But the producers that I work for, I mean, Phil Ramone, who did Billy Joel, was a dream. There's people that I don't care for, whose names will remain silent. But there's joy in working with different folks. Working with James Taylor was unbelievable. And the story there, you want stories?
Yeah.
I made of them. Get a call. Hi, this is, I can't remember the name. And I had a partner, his name was Eric Troyer. And from the first time we sang together, first time, first pass, it was on an album for Garland Jeffries. And they'd been trying to get us together at the record plant, which is where we were doing Bad for Good. And we go up and this guy's got long hair, like I had long hair, mustache. And we go in and sing and it's like, boom. And I'm like, it's all different now. Because he had theory. I don't have theory. I just have an ear. And I can hear things part-wise. And we were, nothing ever signed, but we were best friends until this day. We speak daily. He's in New Jersey. I get a call, and this is James Taylor's manager. And he said, hi, Rory, James would like you to come sing on his record. And I'm like, you know, I'm from Port Dover. Okay, I listen to these people growing up on the radio, and it's like, so I said, well, when? He said, Thursday, 1 o'clock. I said, well, let me check my book. Right? Yeah, we can do that. Okay, 1 to what? Okay, yep. And I hung up the phone and I immediately called Eric and I said, holy crap. He said, what? I said, you're not going to believe who we're working for on Thursday. He said, who? I said, James Taylor, get the out. I said, yeah, unbelievable. We're going to have the time of our lives. I got to tell mom. Right? So I call her, Mom, you're not going to believe who I'm going to, you know, she was very pleased. Irish, we were all Irish. You know, my mother, well, Jesus, you know, darling, it's like that. So about an hour later, I get a call. Hi, Rory. I said, yeah, this is, and I can't remember the manager's name, for Carly Simon. And I went, you know who Carly Simon is, I hope. Yeah, okay. And I said, oh, hi, how you doing? He said, look, Carly wants you to come sing on a record. I said, when? He says, Thursday, 1 o'clock. And I went, I'm sorry, we're booked. We're busy. How many times can you say that? He's, what time can you come? I don't know, 6. And he said, we'll be here at 6, Media Sound, 57th Street. So on the same day, James Taylor and Carly Simon, they were getting a divorce at the time too. It was just like, come on, this doesn't happen to normal people.
Rory often sang lead on demos with Steinman, but there were a few songs that he sang lead on, although he remained uncredited. Bad for Good, Steinman's only solo record, was supposed to be a follow-up to Bat, but instead of Meat singing lead, Steinman did. However, Rory took over lead vocal duties on a few of the tracks, including the record's hit single, Rock and Roll Dreams Come Through.
Well, that's Jim's record. You know, he called me up. I just turned down the Meatloaf tour. And there goes my papers out the window to stay there. And I called David Sonnenberg, who is Jim's Meat's lawyer, manager, and Steinman. And I called David and he just reamed me a new butt and told me to F myself. And I can't do that. So then I just happened, the phone rang 10 minutes later. It was Jim. You know, hey, I see what's going on. I said, well, I'm pretty upset. He said, why? He said, David won't give me my immigration. He said, oh, hang on. 5 minutes later, I get a call from David going, okay, come pick it up. He knew which side his bread was buttered on, and it was Steinman. So he said, like, I see I'm going in to do this. Would you do it with me? And he said, I really need your ears. So I said, absolutely. So 10 months to do that record. We had it all in the can already, and just to put his vocals on, because he wanted it to sound amazing, but it came out as best as he could. But that took forever, but it was a great time in the studio. I think I got 2 hours for Surf's Up. And that vocal also was pretty much one take. Jim was laying the piano down while he learning the song. I wrote half the song, and that's what they kept. This happened to me all the time, which is really hard because you want to do it better, but he just liked the sound. So that I got like an hour to 2 hours for that, and probably an hour and a half for Lost Boys and Golden Girls and Rock and Roll Drinks as one take. Great songs in that record. Bad for Good, there's some great songs in that record.
Todd Rundgren is a name many are familiar with, and he worked with Rory quite a bit, of course producing Bat Out of Hell. As Rory said, without Todd, there wouldn't be a record. And Rory remembers Todd being a joy to work with.
And I'll tell you, it was a joy to do, you know, because he'd just go, okay, I see, what do you hear? And it'd be like, well, and he would just let us go out, because I don't write, I don't understand, excuse me, I don't read music. I hear it before I do it, like all of those background vocals. We would just, you know, Eric and I, we just, okay, and we knew what we wanted to do, and then we just go out and do it. And Jim gave us all sorts of time. There was no pressure. Do it until it's right. And we were very good. And it didn't take long because our blend was ludicrous and we didn't sing out of tune. And they didn't have to pay an arranger because we were doing it on the spot. People say after all the ways I got screwed, I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Just to be in the studio with that option, those songs, the guy beside me who I just loved to sing with, and sometimes Todd would come in too. So there'd be the three of us. It was a joy. Very hard, let's not kid ourselves.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode with Rory Dodd. And believe me, we are far from done. Rory had such an incredible career, it's impossible to cover it all. But until next time, this has been History Repeating.